Hey, good morning, everybody. Welcome to the Wade and Carter Show. Without Ash today, I'm Brent. I'm here to give you a ton of information today. Really a huge news day, if not all super important stuff, at least very interesting stuff to me. The Atzenhofer Studio welcomes you in as they do every day. Atzenhofer, for over 100 years, a South Texas tradition specializing, obviously, in Chevrolet. When I was a kid, it was called the Chevy House. It's where everybody went to get all their parts. So many folks were shade tree mechanics back in the day, making things happen. Now it's where you go for all your warranty work, windshields, tires, wiper blades, inspections, oil changes, servicing all makes and models. Atzenhofer is Victoria's dealership. The Wade and Carter weather is brought to you by our great friends at AT Deerland Feed. Lisa Poole reached out the other day and said, "What is that you use to get rid of mosquitoes and pests around your home?" I use Bifen, Bifen. It's short for like bifenthramycin. It's a big, long chemical word, but if you go in and say, "I need the Bifen," they have these little foolproof ampules. You just take that, cut the top off, drop it into a gallon of water, put it in your pump-up sprayer. Safe for your pets, safe in your house, safe outside your house. I walk around the house, spray under cabinets, spray behind the refrigerator, behind the washer and dryer, spray the doorway entrances very well, spray around the perimeter of the garage. You get those ugly, they're kind of cute actually, but those daddy long leg spiders, I put my sprayer on mist. I just walk around the perimeter of the garage and they're gone. Bless their hearts. I hope they don't die, but they do leave. That's a nice thing. Ricky King says they also have big bottles of Bifen for people that live in the country, so you can make more than 1 gallon. That's right. You can buy it in a much bigger. It almost looks like a flask. You loosen the lid, push it up into a bottle. But yes, you can put it into a big sprayer. Folks use it all the time. I spray it under the hedge leaves. It gets rid of all the mosquitoes in a hurry. That's AT Deerland Feed right there on Water Street. 77 degrees in Victoria, Texas, under sunny skies, heading to a high today of 91. Basically, it'll be Wednesday 2.0. Good morning, Crystal Map. I mentioned Ricky King. There's Ron Koshin. I mentioned Ricky. Hello, brother. So Ricky King's the first one in. Wendy Hughes Garcia, Marvin Mickish. There's my friend Rena Shear. Hello, Rena. Tell Calvin hi. Stephanie Connie, Sherry Jacobs, Daniel Wade White, Bobby Leister. Saw Bobby yesterday at HEB. He made fun of me for not knowing what I was doing, which is common. Greg Garcia, there's my buddy John Anderson. Hello, bud. Lisa Poole, Crystal Map. There you go. What a great group already in. So lots to share today. And I've told you folks this before. I don't consider myself much of a public speaker. It doesn't bother me anymore, but it's not something that I would like. Give me a microphone. I don't need to be like. I'll go to an event with Warriors Weekend. Ron Koshin's great with the microphone. He interacts with the crowd. He's good in that environment, and it's not something that I'm shy to do. It's just something that it's not just my nature to do. I'm much more of an interpersonal, one-on-one kind of person. And to be honest, that's kind of the way I see you folks. I'm talking to David Glass. I'm talking to Ricky King. I'm not talking to a collective. You're all over the place together. But I will tell you that there is a certain rush to doing this show by yourself. Ash and I both share it. I wouldn't want to do it every day, but in a limited engagement, it is a challenge to get up, find the stuff you want to share, assemble it across this huge screen in such a way that I can find it when I want to find it, and then actually pull it off in 1 hour. It's fun. So I've got a lot to share with you today, and I hope that you find it informative. There was a devastating pair of earthquakes in Caracas, Venezuela, early this morning, like midnightish. A 7.2 and a 7.5 or destroyed the airport in Caracas. That's important. It's going to be. I have not heard an update on Bill Posey, which I consider good news. He was stable. He is resting. Quick aside: Bill Posey went for a ride on his e-bike the other night and took the dog with him on a leash. A car. The terminology was a car pulled out. Nobody has any blame necessarily. The dog bolted, pulled Bill off the bike, broken ribs, hurt his back, hurt his lung. Ended up going to San Antonio for care, but was stable. And I'm not being flippant at all about it. A bicycle accident will not be the demise of Bill Posey. He's just that tough. So Caracas, the number I've seen more than once by multiple sources, Fox included, is 164 dead, thousands injured, buildings collapsed, rubble, all kinds of things. And when I first heard this morning about 5:30, the first thing I thought of was what a blessing for them to be back somewhat in the good graces of the United States. The United States will, no doubt, take this humanitarian and political opportunity to really help the folks of Venezuela. It is humanitarian in that there are people in need. They're in our hemisphere. We liberated them from Maduro, if you will, although the other president is also a communist, but at least the other president absolutely hated Maduro. So the other president leans more towards the U.S. just to spite President Maduro. And I think that you're going to see a strengthening, if not a bond, between the United States and Venezuela in this relationship. They have real problems. You can't just fly a C-130 in there right now because the airport was destroyed by these two huge earthquakes. 7.2 and 7.5 are big earthquakes. And hopefully, the U.S. can intervene or intercede, help really quickly. And I do believe that'll be the case. So I really did think good for them to, like a good neighbor, the U.S. will be there. Yeah, I just updated 164 known dead. That number could double easily. It's just really becoming daylight down there. Let's see. Man, there's just so many good things. They said that the second quake with a magnitude of 7.5 was the strongest earthquake in Venezuela in more than a century. And the 7.2 ranks as fourth largest on record. So there's people trapped. You can see the chaos. And you can't. Caracas is a modern city, but it's not like if you had a flood in Houston and people come out and they know what they're doing. There is some chaos over there. Trump, the next story, this is from, this particular data is from CNN. There are 5 things. Preparations are underway for America's 250th birthday, which is July 4th. A new Gallup poll revealed this week that 77% of Americans think that the country's founders would be disappointed by the way the U.S. has turned out. CNN also spoke with descendants of Jefferson, Franklin, and other founding fathers who have plenty to say about the nation. I don't think that our founding fathers would be disappointed in the way the country has turned out. I think they would be flattered that 250 years later, our little republic-based democracy our democratic republic is still hanging in there. Ben Franklin, once said, well, you've got a republic if you can keep it. It is a challenge. It is still known as an experiment. No other place on the planet ever has there been developed a constitution of any type that used as its premise that the people come first, that all of the laws that we have on the books are to protect the population from the government. No other place has done that. The United States, of course, began with understanding man's purpose. That's why so much of our historical writing references the Bible. It references inalienable rights granted to you by the Creator, the fact that there is a God. Only the United States. Everything else is about the government. Our government is about the people, at least on paper. We'll get to that in a minute. President Trump wants to finish the border wall by the end of his term and is stepping up efforts on multiple fronts to meet that goal. It's an enormous task that will require the administration to build around 775 miles of new wall by the end of 2027. Several hundred more miles of secondary and waterborne barrier by the end of 28. Land acquisition, extending the wall, seizing private property primarily in Texas is one hurdle. As you know, there are people that ranch along the border, and they've done so for generations, and they don't want the president using eminent domain to take their land. I can see both sides of that. I think that you've got to do what's in the interest, right, of national security. And at the same time, you're like, hey, wait, we've coexisted with these folks forever. I don't know why we're having to do this. So there's a challenge. It'll work out. After a tense meeting yesterday, Senator Bill Cassidy is, he's a Republican. He's from Louisiana, and he is an outgoing senator. I don't know if Bill Cassidy was defeated or if he is stepping aside. But Bill Cassidy and Rand Paul changed their positions. They had lunch with the president behind closed doors. Both gentlemen, Trump admitting that he raised his voice and Bill Cassidy admitting he lost his temper. That's funny, right? If that would have happened in a meeting with Bill Clinton, Hillary would have already killed Bill Cassidy, but instead, Bill Cassidy was able to express himself. President Trump adequately answered his concerns, and Bill Cassidy voted against the resolution that basically would have required the president to seek the approval of Congress before any further actions in Iran. And Rand Paul, when they voted, Rand Paul just voted present rather than voting. So Rand Paul wasn't totally swayed. Rand Paul has been a very outspoken opponent of some of the president's actions in Iran. So it was a real acquiescence for him to say, look, I'm just going to vote present. I'm not going to vote for the president's position, but I'm going to vote present, which will not allow the resolution to pass. So the president still is in control of what happens in Iran. Marco Rubio is in Bahrain, visiting with folks from the Middle East, and basically said, look, it's going to be unacceptable going forward for anyone to charge a toll on international waters, because it would lead to chaos. Just because water is in proximity to your country doesn't mean you can charge a toll for people to be on it. That seems fair. He did point out that if it were possible for people to put a toll, we're not talking about $10, we're talking about millions of dollars. If it were possible to put a toll on such commercial traffic, it would just lead to all kinds of debits and credits. And Rubio just said, look, it's not going to happen. Yeah. There you go. Yeah, Stephanie Connie, we'll get to the chaos. Well, let's get to it now. She says elected officials should not be able to serve in office if they hate the United States and our laws. They say things like the flag she uses as a napkin basically in the restroom. That's one of the three that won in New York. I can flip over here. This is what I love about being prepared. President Donald Trump and Senator John Fetterman. Now, this is John Fetterman, who's a huge Democrat. He votes against Donald Trump on almost everything. He just has been deemed a more sensible Democrat since he had his stroke. He had a stroke, and it made him more logical than the average Democrat. Oh, isn't that something? President Trump and John Fetterman blasted dumb-ocrat communists and the dirtbag left after the success of Democratic Socialist candidates. When you read Democratic Socialist candidates, so they're elected communists, people willingly enslaving themselves because of Trump derangement syndrome. As all three socialist congressional candidates backed by Zoran Mamdani won their congressional primaries, Fetterman said war was being declared on regular Democrats and that his party was becoming increasingly out of step with the American people. So these are your Somali immigrants. These are your Ilhan Omars. These are your people that come in, you know, God bless them. They get neck deep into the system. They become involved. They become entrenched. And you will find that our own hateful eight, the small assemblage of Democrats that exist in Victoria, Texas, are in lockstep with these people. They follow the Democrat mantra. They acquiesce. They completely suspend all common sense in order to go along with the Democrat agenda. And the problem with that is, Fetterman says, it's just been the dancing days of the dirtbag left with some of these candidates are outrageous. You have candidates that want to abolish ICE, abolish the police, abolish the border. I heard this Claire Valdez in New York say, we welcome all immigrants here. Open borders make for a better America. Open borders make for no America whatsoever. We have no nation without a controlled border. John Fetterman making terrific sense. Who would have ever thought that? Unbelievable. How about this? This Chevalier, Dareliza Avia Chevalier, declared victory in her primary race. She is a self-described prison abolitionist, and she opposes deporting any illegal immigrants. So all those folks that were sent up here from the prisons of Honduras and things that are well known to be murderers and all that, hey, man, they haven't committed a crime here. Give them a chance. Give them a chance. Fetterman said, a lot of these candidates that very likely are going to win tonight are just declaring war on regular Democrats. They are socialist, of course, and now there's a communist and now a Marxist. We have P. Hustle in Maine. You know, that's another one. He's a self-avowed communist. Well, that's not even looked down on, and it's a significant part of the Democratic Party right now. That's a Democrat senator in the form of John Fetterman. Wow, is he a senator or representative? He's in the House, isn't he? Help me out. Shame on me for not. No, he's a senator. He's one of 100. That is so scary. When he was out of office for a while, I thought he was just a representative. Not that that's just a representative, but I thought he was a representative because he was gone for a while. Wow. P. Hustle is the username that Maine Democrat Graham Plattner used for years to post anti-Christian, vulgar, and sexual comments on social media. This is a man that folks in Maine chose to be their leader. This is the guy that is the best the Dems had to offer. This is the guy that guys like Chuck Schumer and Bernie Sanders said, well, that's up to the voters of Maine. They would in no way condemn anything that this guy has done. It's unbelievable. So let's see. Trump called out Democrats even more. He said, even though he tried unsuccessfully to prosecute me, and despite the fact he is a major slimeball, I feel sorry for former Congressman Dan Goldman. He is wandering aimlessly, together with the former husband of the great Kellyanne Conway, through a large field of Democrat communists trying so hard to find his way. A very sad finish for a man who has no clue and never did. Trump has no love lost for Mr. Goldman, Dan Goldman. But Fetterman added that his party has been taken over by the full pro-Hamas wing. Who would have ever thought that you would have a group of people who their main goal is to free Palestine? Their main goal is to get rid of the Jews. He added that the hate for Israel has become the center, little computer screen down, there you go, the center of a lot of these primaries across the country, and definitely what we're witnessing in New York. It is unbelievable. Now that's going to become the lesson that the Democrat Party is going to continue to be anti-Israel. And I'll be the one that's going to continue to lean in and be proud to stand with Israel, Fetterman said. Why do you have to be anti-Jew to be pro-affordable housing? I don't get it. You can't explain it to me. And our hateful eight here in the community can't explain it easy. Greg Garcia says, gone are the days of political compromise. My screen's doing its own thing over here. It goes away. I try not to panic. You can't compromise with people that are insane and have no sense of logic or decency. Yeah, there you go. Take them and Judge Sparkle and denaturalize them and deport them to the Congo. That's Andrew Alvarez. I agree. There are provisions that would allow the United States to deport folks like Ilhan Omar. I hope the president, who has nothing to lose, I hope he deploys those soon. Jonathan Williams, communists have been infiltrating for the last 2 to 3 years. Minnesota protests, no kings, heavily funded by the Chinese Communist Party. None of the Democrat candidates that were in town last night wanted to be challenged on the show this morning. No, they're never going to come on the show here. They're giving that their leadership won't come on the show here. Nobody that's part of the Democrat, they all listen. Do not kid yourself. Either they or their minions listen every day. They never interject because they have no platform to stand on. They have no argument to share. That's what's interesting to me. So Jonathan Williams mentioned China. Let me take a quick break and then I will address China. Love it when a show comes together. Folks, Veracruz Restaurant welcoming you in on a post-caldo Wednesday, Thursday. You can go in today. The full menu is available. Drowning enchilada. Go buy and eat a beef burrito for me. Dawn allows me to have a compuesta. It's going to be a fried tortilla shell, corn tortilla with beans, your choice of meat, beef, chicken, ground beef, fajitas, lettuce, tomatoes, guacamole. I like to get it with a side of serrano peppers because I'm a torture king. Highly recommend Veracruz on a post-caldo Wednesday, Thursday. Allen's Wrecker Service. 578-6300. Allen is your go-to tow-to. If you have a problem on the side of the road, you need a jump, you need a car to be towed to Atzenhofer for some maintenance, you call Allen's Wrecker Service. That's 578-6300. Went Services for all your electrical needs, whether you need a ballast to change out some lighting so you can have LED lights in your garage, which are immensely brighter. You can do that. Went can help. It's sometimes you run into things that aren't Home Depot issues. You need to reach out to Went Services. And then Para Vida Wellness and the Vita Cafe. We always advertise them together because some days you want to eat out and some days you want to eat in. If you want to eat in, go by Para Vida Wellness. Take your blood work. Take your most recent blood work. If you're diabetic, tell her. If you're trying to lose some weight, tell her. If you know the macro makeup that you need for your cholesterol, tell her. She can customize a meal plan for you that is not as expensive as eating at the local burger joint. It is very reasonable. Breakfast bowls. She makes a breakfast bowl with scrambled eggs, brisket, and little bitty diced up pieces of sweet potato. It is a flavor extravaganza. Para Vida Wellness inviting you in. There you go. And also the suites here, the office is at 205. Has a couple of openings. Very reasonable. A great one-off address right in the middle of downtown, right in the middle of the renovations that are going on down here. Get in and talk to John Paul Hull or James Geets about leasing space here at the beautiful offices at 205. We're right above Greeks 205. Tremendous location. Beautiful. Walking distance to all the downtown shops and restaurants. Get in today. Xi Jinping is rewriting the Communist Party's pact with the Chinese people, analysts told the Epoch Times, the source of this article. In the place of promising to get rich, he's offering the promise of getting even. He's offering the assurance that China has risen to stand as an equal of the United States, and that the long-deferred rejuvenation of the nation, including the absorption of Taiwan, is within reach. What blows my mind about this hugely hypocritical position that this idiot is taking, he used to tell folks, let's get rich. You can get rich. They've got a bag of nothing if they don't deal with the United States. It's a fact. We buy all the lion's share of their goods and services. Taiwan only thrives because it operates outside of the Communist Party. So they want to drag Taiwan back into China, which will just diminish Taiwan's motivation to be Taiwan. It'll go back to being a dump. China says money's running short, growth is fading, prices are falling, jobs for the young are scarce, and the country's wealthy are quietly moving their savings abroad. Isn't that the communist model? You have communism, you create a few oligarchs, they ship their money to Switzerland, and then they move out of the country. For 4 decades, the CCP, Chinese Communist Party, sold the people on a false promise. Leave the power to us, ask no questions, and we will make you richer than your parents could have imagined. Tell me that doesn't sound like Mom Donnie in New York. free healthcare, affordable housing, unions for everybody. Just leave it to me. You just go to work and pay your taxes. It's right in front of their faces. They refuse to embrace it. China says living standards did rise, not because of central planning, but because the party loosened its grip on the economy. As the country was open to the outside, access to Western capital, technology, and markets, it brought more wealth to the Chinese people, and the party took all the credit. The party took all the credit. Remember when Barack Obama said, that small business, Rena Shear, that you and Calvin have? You didn't build that. You couldn't have done that without my roads. You want to see Barack Obama as a Democrat? I see him at the very best as a socialist. He's a communist. Zoran Mamdani said, we have to move past rugged individualism. We do? A term used by Teddy Roosevelt? Really? We have to move towards the collective. Communism. Communism is in our midst. And in general, nobody seems to care because we haven't allowed it to infiltrate where we are now. There's an idiot named James Tallarico who's lingering around on a Senate ballot. This is not a guy running for constable, mayor, even state rep. This is a guy running for the United States Senate who is a communist with really weird gender concepts. Xi Jinping is rewriting the deal. In place of the promise of getting rich, he's offering the promise of getting even. China can stand as an equal to the United States, except that their people aren't free. Other than that, other than the fact that their people are subjects of the government, unbelievable. Let's see. For a long time, the CCP's legitimacy to rule has rested on performance legitimacy. The most important part being, this is the communist in quotes, I've let you eat your fill, dress warmly, and live a better life. As if any of us need the government for that. If anything, the government is a hindrance to me living my life, eating my fill, and dressing warmly. It is unbelievable. It's just crazy. China is the biggest joke in the history of civilization. Their people, that's why I'm convinced if we ever went to war with China, they would back down very quickly. They just would. Give them a bar of chocolate and they'd surrender. They don't want to be there. Nobody wants to be subject to some little fat, round Chinese guy. Unbelievable. Folks are still talking about the communists in our own country taking over. Yeah. John Anderson says, it is a crazy world that on one hand, we're helping a country with an earthquake while we're bombing another country. It is a crazy world. I don't disagree. And sadly, it's all about politics, money, and oil. That's what it's all about. We will certainly go down and help Venezuela a lot because they have a lot of oil. Yeah, no doubt about it. Speaking of bombing, you see how the show just flows? Just hope we don't run out of data. The United States, and I've got notes on this on a separate electronic device. I'm a multi-device guy. Admiral Brad Cooper from CENTCOM reports that the United States recently killed an ISIS leader in Syria. His comment was, "We have an ongoing mission to eradicate ISIS from the planet." ISIS, hardly thought of at all anymore. Thank you, God. Thank you, United States military. Thank you, President Trump. A simple thank you would suffice. ISIS, their leader, blown up, sir. They found him, they sought him out, and they eliminated him. Eliminate. Donald Trump giving Washington a taste of its own medicine. He refuses to sign a housing bill. I think it's a bipartisan effort that everybody's for. He says the housing bill pales in comparison to passing the Save America Act. The president, somebody explain to me, I will wait. Minions, alert Jewel. Someone explain to me how Donald Trump wanting to require basic government issued proof of citizenship to vote. Someone explain to me how that is somehow discriminatory. Is it only Democrats who can't find an ID? They've got one when they buy beer. They've got one when they buy a house. They've got one when they buy a car. I don't understand. I don't understand the lunatic left. The left knows that if the illegal voter is eliminated, if the mail-in voter who gets coerced into voting Democrat is eliminated, I'll say it, if the lazy black inner city voter who just ain't got time to go on down to the poll, if those people are removed from the Democrat ranks, the Democrats don't get elected. It is the biggest joke on the planet. There are so few people in this country who are an assemblage of anti-gun, pro-choice, everybody should have an abortion, even trans people, pro-LGBTQ plus, anti-border, who want to get rid of ICE, who want to get rid of the police, who don't believe in prisons. You just start narrowing. There's 100 million Democrats until you whittle it down to that one idiot that's left that thinks that guys ought to swim in girls' swim meets, that think that a guy in a tutu ought to run track against your daughter, that think that furries need their own bathroom. That's the National Democrat agenda. They'll yell at Trump about the reflecting pool and the economy and the price of gasoline while they're wearing a mask in their Prius with a skirt on, and their name is Bill. Those are the fools you see on television, but in reality, there are so few of them that they rely on the ignorant, those that Joe Biden said don't know how to get on the internet. Those people can't even get on the internet. Why? Little poor kids are just as smart as white kids. That's Joe Biden. He's inherently racist. Yet they point fingers at Donald Trump with minorities in his cabinet, with women in his cabinet, with Democrats in his cabinet, independents in his cabinet. He doesn't have a bunch of yes men around him. He yelled at a senator from Louisiana yesterday. Rand Paul, staunchly opposed to many of the president's ideas. Donald Trump doesn't surround himself with yes men. The Democrats rely on the apathy of common sense. If you're willing to set your common sense aside and say, well, it's fundamental to me that a woman has a right to choose. So if that means they pick up all the guns and, and I have to give special days and months to people that want to do lewd and lascivious things, then okay, then that's fine. I'll just go along with that because I think that a woman should be able to have an abortion even after the baby is born. That's just the way I feel. It's her body. It's her choice. If you don't have a uterus, don't have a comment. Those fools are out there. They're among us, people, and they vote. And what you have with the Democrats is a lack of rugged individuality, no individualism. They are all willing. Well, man, I grew up hunting and fishing with my granddad, but I'll give up my gun so that my daughter, well, his name is Steve, but so that Steve has equal rights in the schools. And by the way, he has period cramps, and I think he needs gender affirming care at the government's expense. That's what I think about for Steve. Really? Bunch of Looney Tunes, man. The world would laugh at us, except that they've already done this, and we're just now catching up. Same with our politics. We're letting all these muzzies come in here and infiltrate our ranks, and they're just quietly going about their business, doing their thing, taking over one lazy group of voters at a time. President Trump stunned lawmakers on Wednesday with the announcement that he would not be coming to Capitol Hill as planned to sign a much-discussed housing bill. The president said, as the screen goes blank, in a mid-morning Truth Social post that he had canceled his planned press conference and would not be signing the housing bill until lawmakers passed the Safeguard American Voter Eligibility Act. The 21st Century Road to Housing bill had passed both the House and the Senate with strong bipartisan support. Trump said, today's housing news conference and signing is hereby canceled until such time as we pass the desperately needed Save America Act, which I consider to be a national emergency. That verbiage, no doubt, is thrown in to give the president certain leverage later. He had signaled his frustration earlier on Wednesday morning with a post about Democrat Massachusetts Senator Elizabeth Warren, her involvement in the housing bill. Elizabeth Warren, Pocahontas, you'll recall she ran for president. Trump says, the Elizabeth Pocahontas Warren-centric housing bill, which is of minor importance compared to lower interest rates and even FISA, pales in comparison to passing the Save America Act. That is what Americans, both Democrats, Republicans, and everyone else care about. Get the bad Republicans to approve it, or better yet, terminate the filibuster and approve it, and everything else Republicans have ever dreamed of. The Democrats will do it in hour one, 100%. Republicans will feel very stupid if they don't do it first. I'll be watching with tears in my eyes, the president said. He's obviously very passionate about the Save America Act. He knows firsthand, as a victim of voter fraud, that the United States, the integrity of our voting, unbelievable. It's just nobody cares. Nobody cares. Stephanie Connie asked, did we get the down low? Nice. That's nice. The down low into Barack's new building. So Barack Obama spent $850 million on an edifice to himself. It's not a presidential library because a presidential library comes with requirements that involve him to actually do something positive. It was in the past that you had to raise, if you built a $100 million library, you had to raise 20% of that, or let's say $20 million bucks, to put into a fund to provide for perpetual care so that the building doesn't fall apart in one generation. Seems reasonable. Congress recently raised that to 60%. So when Barack Obama, who had a $300 million plan for his building, much like he had a plan for affordable health care, when he had a $300 million plan, he would now have to raise $180 million in order to set up the fund. But when his costs ballooned to $850 million for his presidential center, it's not a library because he's skirting the requirement. Well, he would have to raise $510 million for the perpetual care. So he didn't do that. He didn't make it a presidential library. It's just a new building. Stephanie Connie actually said you needed a driver's license to get into Barack's new building. So the very people that voted for Barack Obama can't get into his building because on the south side of Chicago, they're too dumb to get on the internet. Everybody knows that. Joe Biden said so. Yeah. You got to have one. You're right, Lisa Poole, when you fill out for SNAP, EBT. Yeah, you got to have it. Yep. Oh. John Anderson says, I always wonder what our world was supposed to be like in the first place. Didn't God intend for everyone to get along together and for everything to have a purpose? I think he did, and everything does have a purpose, but sin, the nature of man, the fall of man is what ruined everything. Yes, we could live in Eden globally now with the technology we have. The greed and the sin of man, the evil that does exist in the world is what keeps this place in turmoil. It's around us every day. Yeah. Yep. Let's see what I've got here. Yeah. Kevin Liner, the Trump building versus the Obama building, same cost. Trump's building is huge. Looks like it's about 40 stories. Same 850 million. Let's see. So many great things to share with you. By the way, there was a Canada Air flight. It was one of those turboprops. I think it's an Embraer. It's got those big black props. It's a big plane, probably holds 50 people. They use them a lot in the Northeast as commuter planes. It's like a taxi from New Jersey to parts of New York. And an Air Canada flight, the pilot had a seizure of some type. 45-minute flight. Flight attendants had to, the plane bolted on its own, jerked, and then as the pilot had a seizure and fell upon the gear, fell upon the controls. The co-pilot had to call for flight attendants to restrain or to help the pilot get out of the cockpit and into the aisle, while the co-pilot, capably, no issues, piloted the aircraft and got the folks to safety. But people were reporting that it was a terrible and terrifying few minutes. So, yeah, that's bad. First State Bank of Louise Astros update. Astros win last night. Let's see if I can find it for you. They win 3-1 over the Blue Jays. Joey Loperfido playing, I believe, left field. Really, he had a home run 2 nights ago, and last night had a triple. Pena scored. Jeremy Pena singled and moved Alvarez over. Paredes had a really nice double in the game that scored Pena. Astros win 3-1. They are playing really good team baseball. Pitcher named Burrows had been in the bullpen for a while, came back last night, pitched really well. First State Bank of Louise inviting you in to teach your kids money management. If you give your kid an allowance, go the extra step and put that money into a checking and or savings account for free with First State Bank of Louise. They will help your child. They have online banking. You have no fees. If you don't get a printed statement, you won't get any fees taken out. You get a statement, they want to take out a couple of bucks for having to mail it to you and put it together and print it and stuff the envelope and all of that. But if you bank online, Your child, my kids don't even have a checkbook. They have a checking account. They have a First State Bank of Louise issued debit card. And they have the ability, I think it's 6 transactions a month with no fees, to move money back and forth from checking to savings. So if Caden gets a check, say from the chopping block, he endorses it. I'll go by and throw it in the bank. He may move 2/3 of it over to his savings account, keep the rest for spending money, and that's free. And it's teaching them that when your debit card's declined, you're out of money. You need to watch your account. They can do it online. And the kids these days are so app adept. They have no problem going online and looking at their balances. First State Bank of Louise, the friendliest bank anywhere. Call today. Let's see. We've already talked about America 250, and we are nowhere near out of data. On this day in 1949, Phyllis George, many of you guys that are close to my age can remember Phyllis George and Jimmy the Greek and Irv Cross being on CBS. You had a Greek guy, a Texas woman, and a black former NFL player all on the same CBS broadcast back in the 70s. That was a big deal. Miss George was a former Miss America from 1971. She was one of the first women featured on a national TV sports show. Flash forward to just yesterday, and Linda Cohn of Sports Center fame, Linda Cohn retiring. She hosted more sports centers than anybody. She was, this is just an aside, because if you want to, you could make this a sexist remark. But she was extremely well-versed in every sport. She could talk hockey, boxing, horse racing, football, basketball, baseball, softball, swimming. She had pertinent knowledge of every sport. And I'm not insinuating that that is a male-centric quality. I'm saying that's who she was. So congrats to Linda Cohn for a career well done. And hats off to CBS for back in the day on NFL Today, hiring a young, no doubt about it, extremely attractive Phyllis George. Good for them. Let's see. I've already gone over that with you. Oh, here's one for you. How about DEI on display? This is from the Daily Wire. This is going to blow your mind. When New York hosted their parade for the Knicks, a woman was captured on video. Now, I don't have any other way to say it. I don't care what you think. Some of you are going to cringe. Stringy hair, just a big fat white woman. That's who she is. Big fat white woman. On the streets of New York, they have these expanded metal trash receptacles. They encourage New Yorkers to keep their city clean. Along the route of this, or route, if you will, of this parade, they had put out orange trash cans accented in blue with a huge sticker that says $100 fine for just touching it. But this woman appeared on a now viral video. She picked up that trash can. She wanted that for a souvenir of the Knicks because it's orange and blue, but it was full of trash. So Fatty picks it up and dumps it onto the sidewalk of New York, picks it up and dumps it out and walks off with it. Her name is Angela Baez. Maybe she wasn't white. She was fully decked out in blue and orange from head to toe in honor of the Knicks and their first NBA championship in 53 years. She couldn't resist the temptation to take home the trash receptacle that matched the theme. But since the trash bin was filled to overflowing at the time, she opted to simply turn it upside down, direct it at the sidewalk, and dump it in order to claim her prize. "What are you doing?" someone yelled as she calmly dumped the trash onto the sidewalk. She shook the can to get all of the refuse out of it. Someone else could be heard clapping, apparently egging her on in the background. But Baez, her victory was short-lived as she was fired from her job at J.P. Morgan Chase. There you go. After the video of her escapade went viral, a spokesperson said she's no longer with the company. According to her profile of employment on LinkedIn, she had been promoted 1 year earlier to serve as Executive Director of Community and Industry Engagement for Card and Connected Commerce. DEI is what she is. Executive Director of Community and Industry Engagement for Card and Commercial Commerce. Really? Card Connected Commerce. She had previously worked for a review site called The Infatuation. She was the director at The Infatuation as Executive Director of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion. Clearly, she was not the second lieutenant of common sense, class, or obedience. She was described as one of the brightest voices at the site, dedicated to making a positive impact. A positive impact for J.P. Morgan Chase apparently did not extend to dumping trash on the sidewalks of New York. Amen. Get rid of these idiots. The United Nations nuclear watchdog said inspections of Iran's nuclear sites will happen under the new U.S.-Iran deal, though it gave no timeline as leaders of both countries sent mixed signals again. President Trump said the war is going very well. He has succinct and very limited vocabulary, with Iran making major concessions during the 60-day negotiating window opened by a memorandum the two presidents signed last week. I've been a critic here to tell you that if he doesn't bring home the uranium, the war effort was to a degree a failure. Do I agree the war needed to happen? I have no problem with bombing Iran into the Stone Age. They absolutely seek and believe that they are destined to have a nuclear weapon. And of all the planets on the earth, they are the single most likely to employ such a weapon. They are the largest state sponsor of terrorism on the planet. So there is no doubt they would do it. There you go. Very interesting. I don't know what's going to come of what's been going on in Iran. I just know that I know that they've had a good old-fashioned butt whipping coming. Today is the day of let's see. This was Custer's last stand. June 25th, 1876, 100 years into our country, Native American forces, that would be Indians, led by Crazy Horse and Sitting Bull, defeat the U.S. Army troops of Lieutenant Colonel George Armstrong Custer at the Battle of Little Bighorn near southern Montana's Little Bighorn River. What are the odds of that? The Battle of Little Bighorn happens at a river called Little Bighorn? Who would have thunk it? Crazy Horse and Sitting Bull, Lakota Sioux leaders, strongly resisted the efforts of the United States government to confine them to reservations. 10,000 Native Americans had gathered in a camp along the Little Bighorn, which they called the Greasy Grass, in defiance of the War Department order to return to their reservation or risk being attacked. The Battle of Little Bighorn, also called Custer's Last Stand, marked the most decisive Native American victory and the worst U.S. Army defeat in the long Plains Indian War. The gruesome fate of Custer and his men outraged many white Americans and confirmed their image of Native Americans as wild. Meanwhile, the U.S. government increased efforts to subdue the tribes. Within 5 years, all of the Lakota Sioux and Cheyenne were confined to reservations. Anytime you hear somebody who happens to have black skin whining about how bad they've got it in the United States, you just point them to the Native Americans of this country. Did it have to happen? It did for us to be here in this form. Were some of those people extremely ruthless? Yes, they were. Were they fighting for their mere existence? Yes, they were. Folks, it's the top of the hour. Pray for the folks in Venezuela. Pray for our country. I owe some sponsors some love. I'm not positive. I'll look at the comments later. Ash is out of town. We may be off tomorrow. Certainly want to thank Chesnick Furniture. Chesnick and Love make your house a home. Get in and see why you always do better at Chesnick. Bobby Leon inviting you in to find some new furniture for your beautiful home. Palace Bingo, where friends meet friends. Get in. Great food, great people, lots of fun, a chance to make money. And as always, thank you, Atzenhofer, for being Victoria's dealership. God bless you all and have a great day. Folks, we care about you at Wade and Carter. Pray for our country. Be well. Bye-bye.